The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger and Skype, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And you can always go and listen to the last 60 days of shows at xzonepodcast.com. My guest this hour is the author of Anticipation of the Penitent. Her name is Nancy LaRonda Johnson, and Nancy was raised in Berkeley and currently resides in Hayward. Anticipation of Penitent is her debut novel. She has written short stories, poetry, and personal journals most of her life, and won her first award for a short story in 6th grade summer program. She has a love of stories, and she is character-driven and has surprising twists in her stories. She attained a BA in sociology from UC Santa Cruz and a JD from the University of San Francisco School of Law. She raised a niece and nephew as a single parent for 10 years, during which time she began working as a deputy probation officer for San Mateo County, where she has been employed for 12 years. And joining me now is Nancy LaRonda Johnson. And Nancy, welcome to the X Zone.
Hi, thank you.
My goodness, a single mom working, working as a deputy probation officer. My goodness, hats off to you, lady.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my parenting days are over, but yeah, I did that for 10 years, and it was a time.
Tell me, what is a deputy probation officer? What's the difference between a probation officer and a deputy?
Well, it's the same thing.
Oh, is it?
I'm a deputy. There's the chief probation officer, and I'm the deputy, which is below.
Oh, it's
just
like a sheriff with the sheriff's deputies.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha. And why did you want to become a probation officer?
Actually, I did go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I took some time off to study for the bar exam, and then I got my niece and nephew that I raised, and that kind of changed my life, and I began working at a job. Actually, I needed to find a job that paid more than what I was doing, and so probation was hiring. And I never considered working as a probation officer, but I got the job, and actually it's a great job, so I love it.
How many years have you been a probation officer now? 12 years?
Just about 12 years, yeah.
My goodness. Where does your love for writing come from?
Well, I think it started from, as a child. I did have a difficult time in my childhood and teenage years, and writing was a way for me to, journaling was a way for me to express what was going on, all the emotions and just things you never, as a teenager, you don't understand. And I got some raw emotion out that way, and that kind of let me. I started off with journaling and poetry, and then later on came story writing. And I considered minoring in creative writing in college, but went to Italy instead and studied abroad for a year.
You and I have to take a commercial break, but I want to talk to you about your debut novel, Anticipation of the Penitent, when we come back. So
Okay.
stand by. You and I will be taking a 2-minute commercial break. Exonation, my guest this hour is Nancy LaRonda Johnson. Her website is www.nancylarondajohnson.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. And Nancy and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break. Don't go away.
Bad boys, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys.
Welcome back, everyone. Nancy LaRonda Johnson's our special guest, and she's the author of Anticipation of the Peniten. Yeah, there you go. Tell me a little bit about your book, dear.
All right, so it's a book about a serial killer who lives with his mother. He was raised pretty much to kill. His mother was overtaken by Satan, and she gave birth to Thomas. She distanced herself from him and let Satan do what he had to do, and he raised Thomas to kill. And so in the start of the book, you kind of get a glimpse of their lives, how they live day to day, and of course you look into how he kills and how he chooses the people he wants to kill, and in his case he kills the most innocent, who he considers the most innocent, which is little girls. And after that you really get to see who they are as people and why they've made the decisions that they have made, how they got into this situation. And so I really, when in writing this book, I wanted to answer questions like there's a lot of writers who have the question, especially writers of horror and writers of true crime. They ask the question of why is there evil in the world? Why do people commit such horrendous acts towards each other? And so that was my question when I started this book. And serial killers is a good way to kind of get that horridness out and then put a reason behind it. So, and I believe I did that in this case.
What was your inspiration for writing Anticipation of Penitent?
Well, I love writing stories. It actually started as a very, very short story of Alizea, the mother, and the character just stayed with me. These short stories are called flash fiction. They can be like 1 or 2 pages. And the character stayed with me, and it just developed from there. And then I've always loved watching and movies and reading books, documentaries, true crimes, and fiction about serial killers. And, just to answer that question, why do they do that? I'm trying to understand what's going on. And so this book kind of developed in that. And not only just, I guess I didn't want to just understand why they did it. It was a thrill for me to, it's a different world. And we like to learn about different worlds that are totally outside of ourselves.
So tell me this: how do you do research into a sociopath that is demonically spawned by the devil? Like, man, this is one heck of a plot.
Yeah, it is. And the way you study is by reading a lot. Like I say, I've been reading fiction since I could read, and I love reading, and I love stories that really get into who people are, and also transformative stories. So I really try and get into the character.
Right.
And so that was, all of that I think led into how I write. And true crime, that helped, and also my job. I work with criminals, and so in working with them, I kind of see how their minds work, how they're so focused into their own world and think they're entitled to use anybody else the way they like, get any, steal from them.
So tell me, is there a direct connection, in your opinion, all right? I'm not asking you any other thing except for your opinion, between criminals and evil, the devil?
Yeah, definitely. I believe so. I mean, there's a connection. Unfortunately, the devil has a connection to all of us.
Right.
And all of us have evil inside of us because of that. And so, yeah, the more evil you do, the more you allow Satan to work through you. He's using you in that way.
I've heard this about your book, that it's sinister yet profoundly human. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And again, it's sinister because you really do see the dark side of these people. They seem like normal people living normal lives, but they do horrendous acts, and they let horrendous things happen without doing anything, especially the mother. And you think, what's wrong with her? And in that sense, it's very sinister. And Thomas loves his job of killing. That's his whole life. And then later on, I say it's human because you really get to see them as people. And you realize, hey, even though they've done these horrible things, will they stay this way, or will they change, or will they become worse? And so we all have those decisions in life. Will we change for the better? Will we stay the same? Or will we try and improve ourselves? And I think no matter how horrible you start off in life, you have that option to change, to make those decisions. And so I wanted to develop that in this book.
Is it really evil, or is it a flaw in the person? Is evil something that we use as an excuse to justify our actions? Or is it really something evil, demonic, taking over the person and making them do it? I have a hard time with that because, I see religion being used for thank God for this, and, the devil made me do it on the other hand. So where do we draw the line between using evil as an excuse for our actions compared to the truth being that the person wanted to do it themselves and that there was nothing, there was no outside influence of any demonic nature whatsoever?
Well, I think you're kind of making two statements here, where we're always influenced by the spirit world, by evil, by good,
Do you really
Those
think?
two
Okay,
worlds, always. Huh?
I have a problem. I have a problem with that because I don't.
Well, wait a minute. That's one statement.
Okay.
I think we are always influenced by that, but we have free will. We can choose which influences we're going to react to.
But isn't free will another escape?
If we see some, I'm sorry.
Isn't the version of free will just another escape clause that we humans have incorporated into our vocabulary so that we don't have to be committed or pinned on any specific point?
I don't see how that is. I mean, free will just means we have that choice. It doesn't mean that, we're puppets that are guided by God or by Satan. I'm sure there are, I do believe that there are some circumstances where a devil might or spirit might, enter someone and take control. I'm sure that's happened sometime in the history. But in most cases, we this evil or goodness that enters us, we have the choice, which is innate in us. In this sense, it's innate in us to decide we're going to act in this way and we're going to act in that way. And some people act more in bad, more evilly, because it becomes a habit, and it becomes, in a sense, an addiction. And so I'm not saying that, no, we don't have a control because the devil's made us do this. No, it's our choice that we've acted this way until it became our body habit and until it became an addiction. And it's an addiction that's hard to break, but it can be broken.
So you're saying that a criminal act is an addiction?
In a sense, I think it's comparable to an addiction. When all you've learned is to do evil and you don't see any other way out and you don't care to see if there's another way out, you like the feel, you like your life, and you just want to do what you do. And, I guess what I'm trying to say is that some criminals, they see that they can live another way, but it's too hard to change, or it's too hard to consider how life can be in that sense, and they like what they're doing.
What about free will?
Yeah, that is free. I mean, free will is, that was my main point, that there is free will. We can choose. But there's a lot of people don't want to put the work into it.
But you said, they can't see another way out. If free will is there, they have the other way out.
Well, yeah, but they have to acknowledge it. They have to, by seeing it, we can blind ourselves to what we want to see in life, and we do that often. And so I think that's why, we, as humans, we're not born with all the knowledge in the world. We're not born with total knowledge and knowing who we are. That's why we go through all these changes and turmoils and everything. But it comes to a point where we have to accept this as, who we are as people. We have to accept our abilities and accept our choices in life. And so at that point, when you're at the age of accountability, that's when you start to have to make a decision. Am I going to keep going the route that I know is wrong? Or I'm going to keep going the route that I know is good. And sometimes the route is wrong. That's wrong feels so much better that we keep doing it until it becomes a body habit. But I think there's always moments in somebody's life, no matter who they are, where they have the ability to decide to do right. And whether or not they take that is their choice. In a sense, that's their free will to decide that they're going to work hard and try and change for the better. And sometimes it's an epiphany in a sense, and other times it's just a realization that I'm sick of living this way. And so many people get to that point.
All right, so what role does society play on the reasons why a person may turn to crime?
Well, I think that the bad things people do, I don't want to keep using the word evil because that means evil to me means so many different things, but the things bad people do, sometimes they're born with a certain amount of badness in each person. Probably, this is theology. We can argue so many different things. Like some people are born evil. Some people learn to be evil. Some people chose to be evil.
Do you really think in your heart of hearts that some people are actually born evil?
That I don't know. I won't say evil. I would say there are definitely some people that are born maybe with some brain impairment. That's that are sociopaths. There are people that are born psychotic, and I'm not saying criminally psychotic, but just psychotic. They can't help it. There are some people born with a sociopath disorder. And so, but again...
All right, Nancy, stand by. I've got to take my news break. We'll be back after the news. www.NancyLaRondaJohnson.com is her website. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. Nancy LaRonda Johnson is my special guest. She's the author of Anticipation of the Penitent. Her website is www.nancylarondajohnson.com. And Anticipation of the Penitent was a front runner in the indie publishing contest sponsored by the San Francisco Writers Conference in 2012. And congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And would you say that some of your inspiration for your book actually came from your job as a probation officer?
I wouldn't say the inspiration came from it, but I would say that it helped with character development. It helped me to really describe in the book or expound in the book how these people are thinking and why they've made the decisions that they make, because it's how it's pretty much the criminal mind, criminality, how they think. It's like they have a focus in their way of thinking that the way they live is the way they should be living, and this is what I got to be doing. This I have no choice. This is who I am, and so that's what I kind of brought out in the book. That in the beginning you see that they think this is who they are. They have no choice. They're stuck. This is the life that they're living. The mom, she hates it. The son, he loves it. However, later on, and of course this is all controlled by Satan, but later on, to tie it back to what we were talking about, although they believe that they were being controlled by Satan, they realize that they do have a choice, that the mom realizes she has a way to free herself from this life, and she goes towards that, and she's hoping her son will choose to go towards that.
So have you written some of your own religious philosophies and religious beliefs into your book?
I don't know if they're my own, but yes, there is some Christian theology in there as well. So it's hard to separate. For me, in writing, not all of my writing has Christian theology in it, but most of it does because it's part of my life. So it's hard to always separate it from. I don't want to separate all the time from my life. It just flows through. So in this book, when I'm talking about Satan, I have to talk about God, and God is the only way that they see can free themselves from this bond they have with Satan.
But what happens if they don't believe in God?
Well, that's a question that each person they'll find out when they die. What happens when you don't believe in God? Me personally, I think that God has so much love inside of him that it depends. If someone say they lived outside of God's influence, that they were pretty much raised in an evil family, and say like in gangs or drugs, and they never really had real access to God, I think God would give them that final chance. In church they teach a lot that you have until you die. And if you don't accept Christ before you die, then you go to hell. And I don't necessarily believe that personally, because I think God has too much love inside of himself. And if someone was never really explained the truth of him, I don't think he would just send them to hell without giving them another chance.
I was wondering if you could give us specific examples of some of the cases that you've worked on.
Well, specifically, there's I can say there's most people in jail are there because of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a woman who, she had a good job as a nurse, and she ended up getting addicted to drugs, where she lost her job, she lost her child, and ended up in jail. And she got out, did treatment, was trying to work to get her daughter back, but ended up back in jail, ended up using again and getting back in jail. And I arrested her. And afterwards, she thanked me. She said that she was going down a path that she couldn't get out of on her own, and jail kind of gave her that, forced her to make that one change at the moment of her life where she had that pretty much an extra kick, an extra push to not use. That time in jail kind of gave her that. And she went from jail directly to a treatment program, and that helped her along. And there are a lot of people who have actually thanked me for arresting them because they realized they couldn't do it on their own. They probably would have been dead by now or just in a lot worse situation than they were at the time. So at the time, of course, they didn't like it, but afterwards they realized it was the best thing.
You know, we I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
I know, unfortunately, some people, they don't see it that way. They go to jail, they have option for treatment, but they'd rather just go back out and do the criminal life again. And that's a lot of people, unfortunately, do that.
But we see on the news and on various shows the overcrowding situations within the jail system. How do we explain that? How do we cope with it? And how do we fix it?
Oh, shoot. I'm not a politician just for that reason. No, they're really trying. I think. Well, I'm not saying that. I know that they're trying. There's I don't agree necessarily with all the ways that they're trying to control that, but they are. In California, there's people have an option. There's alternative sentencing where people can go to treatment instead of going to jail, or they can do work furlough. They can. Where they go to work instead of going to jail. Or, there's other alternatives. And then there's the realignment where people in prison are getting released and getting placed on probation instead of parole because of the overcrowding. They're trying different ways to control that, but that doesn't mean that I don't think the solution is letting people who do wrong not be punished.
It almost seems that in some cases the prison system has a revolving door in it. They just come in, go out, come in, go out, come in, go out.
Yeah, a lot of times that's true, unfortunately.
Wow.
But in probation and parole, we try and prevent that. We try and, my goal as a probation officer is to try and help a criminal act in a way that's not criminal, and complete their term of probation successfully and not return to jail. So that's our goal. So we try and we talk to them, we meet with them, we guide them to the things that they need to do to live a socially responsible citizen but sometimes they hit a roadblock and they don't, and we try and work with them still, but sometimes we have to put them back in jail.
For our listeners who may not know the difference, what's the difference between being on probation and being on parole?
Well, in most states, being on probation is local, it's county level, where you're sentenced to jail instead of going to prison, and you get released on probation for a period of time. So you're supervised for a period of time by probation officers on the county level. Parole is when you go to either state or federal prison, and you get released and you're placed on state or federal parole, and you're supervised by parole officers.
Gotcha.
So it's just,
serial killers have families. And I would imagine that some of the families also become victims. How can the families of these serial killers best heal?
Actually, this is the focus of the sequel to Anticipation of the Penitent. is a relative of Thomas who wants to go to the victims' families and try and help them heal. But I think a best way to heal, especially once the perpetrator has been captured, but even if it's not, the best way to heal is to forgive. It's hard to say that, and it's hard to accept that sometimes, but forgiving is the best way to heal. And by forgiving someone, you're not saying that what you did, I'm okay with it. No, you're not saying that. It's more of a releasing of that negative spirit, and letting it go and letting them say, okay, you're human, you made your choices, but I'm not going to let you bound me anymore by your actions. I'm going to release that and forgive you for my own benefit. It's more for the person who gives forgiveness.
What was the greatest satisfaction that you've received within your duties as a probation officer?
The greatest satisfaction is seeing people change. I have this one guy who was very young. He lived with his grandparents and was kind of took for advantage his life with them. He wasn't paying rent. He wasn't paying his probation fees. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do on probation. He was young. I talked to him a lot and tried to let him see, his grandparents didn't have to take him in. They didn't have to give him, he's an adult. He's supposed to be living on his own, but he's not. And so let him know that however they are, however wrong you think they are, they deserve your respect just for having you in there, in their lives. But anyway, so the best thing, and then he ended up, after a while, he did end up getting a job. He paid off all his probation fees. He's got his own house. And seeing that your words to people have an effect in their lives, it's really, it thrills me.
Tell me, do you find it sometimes difficult to keep that distance between being a probation officer and getting closer as a friend? How do you keep that distance?
Oh, shoot! If you ask my mom, she'll tell you that I'm cold-hearted. No, I don't know. For me, it's not that hard for some reason. There are some people that I've worked with that I think about every now and then and wish I can just call and just to see how they're doing. Right. But, I don't, because they're living their lives and I'm not their friend. And so, I know it's not that hard for me. I care for them as people, but I know my role as a probation officer, and I'm a representative of the county.
Right. So let me ask you this. Obviously, your family is very close. What motivated you to write about troubled families?
Well, because my family was a troubled family. Like I said, growing up, there was a lot of stuff going on that took a long time to get over. And I did draw from that in writing this book. Isaiah went through a hard time growing up, and I used sort of my own emotions to write that story. But it came to a point where I realized, especially as an adult, that my mom did the best she could. And I know she did a lot wrong, but she did a lot right, and I have to respect her for that. And I know what she did wrong, she didn't do intentionally. But the thing she did right definitely was intentional. So I have to accept that, as love from her, and just forgive what she's done that's wrong. I know she cares for me, she loves me, and wants the best for me, and always have.
She must be very proud of you, being a probation officer and being someone who helps people.
Yeah, she is, and she helps people too. So I'm proud of her. She has a home for a boarding care home for the mentally disabled.
God bless her.
So, yeah.
So I really don't think your mother thinks you're cold-hearted.
She'll teasingly tell you that because I don't cry very easy in movies, and I don't get so bogged down by sad stories. You know what makes me cry is good stories, and when people change, when people
a happy ending.
Yeah, or just knowing that people broke loose. That's what get me crying.
I know that you had custody of your niece and nephew for 10 years. How did this come about, and how did this affect the writing of your book?
Yeah, well, my sister actually was a drug addict, and she wasn't able to raise her kids, and the two I raised were her last two, and there was pretty much no one else in the family who could take them. And I'm the youngest in my family, and I was working swing shift, living in a one-bedroom apartment. I said, no, I can't take them, but realizing there was no one else who could take them, they're going to end up in foster care. I didn't want that to happen, so I did change my shift, got a two-bedroom apartment, and ended up getting them. And that was a hard time. That was a big, big transformation in my life, and that was extremely hard. And I draw on that in my writing as well.
All right.
Also, is it over? I've been involved with the kinship program, too, which is a support group for people who raise relatives' families.
All righty. You and I have to take our final break. Please stand by.
Okay. Sure.
All this love coming from a lady who says her mother thinks she's cold. I don't buy this one bit. I'm going to call your mother up and ask her. Nancy, stand by. Great talking to you. Exo Nation, Nancy LaRonda Johnson is our special guest. Does she sound like a cold-hearted person to you? Nah. I guess she has to keep that up because she is a probation officer.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, hold on. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with my special guest. Don't go away.
And it's so cold and lonely here without you. Precious and few are the moments we two can share. Quiet and blue like the sky, I'm all over you. And if I can't find my way back home, it just wouldn't be fair. Precious and few are the moments we two can share. Baby, it's you on my mind. Your love is so rare. Being with you is a feeling.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. My guest this hour is Nancy LaRonda Johnson. She's the author of Anticipation of the Penitent. Her website is www.nancylarondajohnson.com. And Nancy, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And I still tell you that you don't seem like a cold person to me. You know what?
No, thank you. I'm not a cold person.
No, listen.
I'm just not a lightweight. I'm not a pushover either. So.
There's a big difference between not being a pushover and being a cold-hearted person, because a cold-hearted person certainly wouldn't raise a nephew and a niece while she was working, got out of a one-bedroom apartment, but got a two-bedroom because she didn't want her family, her children, her niece, her nephew, to go into foster care. To me, that shows you're a great person. You've got a warm heart. And I bet you're one hell of a law enforcement officer.
Thanks.
I
appreciate that.
I was wondering, how has your involvement with a support group for raising relatives, kids, influenced you in your writing?
Well, it did let me see that parents go through a lot of struggles. So never have been a parent myself before I got them. And the kinship program, which is that support group for relatives raising other relatives' kids, we got to vent. We got to express how the birth parent was disrupting the lives, or not involved at all, or trying to be involved and just making everything hard. So I really got to see that being a parent is hard, and that really comes out in Alizea's character. She's his mother, and she starts off feeling like she's not. She feels like more like the nanny. And so that group actually, and being a parent to these kids, kind of let me develop that character more and her feelings, and how she finally was able to change those feelings of being a nanny to really want to love her son and have him to be changed.
You know, our time is nearly up for tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It's been a journey.
But I just want to ask you one question. If there's one message readers could get from your book, what would it be?
The one message would be is that however people act in their lives, they always have, and they should always be afforded the opportunity to be redeemed, to be able to restore their honor and worth as a human being. So, you know, if someone, it's not just that if someone stole your money, you should forgive them. If someone kills your child or your wife, you should forgive them because they are human, and they should have that opportunity sometime in their life to be restored as a decent human being.
Nancy, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and you're the warmest, cold-hearted person I've ever met.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you, Nancy. Good luck.
You too.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Exo Nation, Nancy LaRonda Johnson has been my guest, www.nancylarondajohnson.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away.